Welcome to the Malibu studio. This is Jim LaValle. He's a clinical pharmacist and he owns a couple things, but one of the biggies is metabolic code.
That's right.
And it's basically you want to find out about not just your metabolism, but all the other factors that's going on in your system, what's working, what's not. And you probably do that through blood, saliva. Do you do the cortisol testing and all those things?
Yeah, we do everything from, cortisol, salivary, urinary hormones, blood hormones. We look at things like fractionated lipids. We look for markers of inflammation in your body, so things that people don't normally even think of. Because you think of inflammation as, oh, my joints hurt. But really, inflammation can be, oh, I'm damaging my tissues. I'm leading myself to dementia. I'm creating an increased risk for heart disease or kidney disease.
Yes.
So that's the key thing to understand is that, and that topic is, metabolic code was originally conceived to combat this thought of metaflammation. Metabolic inflammation leads to inflamed aging. So it's kind of starting to look at metabolism in a different light, right? It's about how your whole body is working either together or fighting each other.
Yes. And from what we understand, no system works alone. Guys, if you think it's in your elbow, which I did with pickleball, it's in your neck. You have to think about some of these things, right? And I've gone down a tummy road where I found out it was in my head. That's a huge one, okay?
Oh.
And one that most gastroenterologists don't want to entertain, which I find fascinating. But we're here to talk about inflammation, obviously. What was that term again? I love that.
Metaflammation.
Metaflammation. Okay, so we're going to talk about longevity. Jim and I are the kind of people that actually think, ooh, there's probably some things I can do about this. Many other people feel like there must be a pill for that, right? So we're not the must be a pill for that people. And if that's you, you might not like this segment, but I really like what we can do. Can we do things? And also there's all sorts of neat new tests as you were talking about. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So concerning longevity, I don't know if I want to be here forever. I really don't. But for the time I've left, I want to have really great lives. Movement, enjoy food, all those kinds of things, right? So I'm assuming you're right. You're my people.
I am your people.
Yes.
You and I know we've been each other's people for a while now.
That's right.
For me, it's all about, look, I turned 63. I'm going to be 64.
Okay.
I still like to be able to work out with my 24-year-old son.
Nice.
I still want to be able to get on that pickleball court and dust off a 40-year-old. For me, it's really important that, the time we have left, and I'll tell you what did it for me. My father lived with me the last 14 years of his life. Wow. He lived to the age of 91. And you know what? When we moved to California, he bought a convertible Volkswagen Beetle and cruised to the Senior Citizen Center and cruised to the VFW. And he was involved in his life and moved and ate and had joy. But the main thing is he had health into that ninth decade of living, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to think about, right?
I do too. There was I went to a health conference last year, fitness, and one of the guys, he works at the Pacific Brain Health Center, and it was a story about, can you, as a health professional, say, I think that you basically have a little bit of, your brain is aging. Are you headed to dementia? Are you, and of course, yeah, we are.
Right.
But the recognizing signs and how you, as just a lay person, maybe just a trainer or whatever, could basically say to this person, let's work on this, let's work on that. Anyway, the point of taking this class, and it was about 3 months, I felt like I was going in to take the boards. I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. It was really intense. There was a lot of stuff going on that I didn't think I needed to know. But the bottom line was, if you are feeling older and you are headed, and we're all getting that way, right? It was, you want to be social. You want to be able to do any sort of fitness, from ping pong to racket sports to even Tai Chi to Zumba, these things that are mentally learning a little choreography, so to speak, right?
That's right.
And then, of course, your food. Your food is a big deal.
It's so important. And I think the other aspect, I took Tai Chi for about, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And you know what the best part of it was going to the class and being around other people when we were moving together.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at some of the Blue Zone information that came out, where we're trying to look for the right model. Oh my gosh, they ate spermidine. That's it.
Right.
If we just get more spermidine, maybe we should rub it on us. And really what I got out of it, looking at several documentaries and doing a lot of reading, is socialization is huge. Movement is huge. Go to Sardinia and walk up 18-degree inclines with your groceries every day when you're 90 years old. And I think that whole aspect of movement and movement for fun as you're aging is critical. And then I think diet's incredibly critical. When you look at the early research on metaflammation, there was these really key constructs that say you're going to go down this funnel, and at the end of the funnel, as you're aging, you're either going to be having fun or you're going to be moving right at some kind of chronic illness. And the big ones being heart disease, diabetes, dementia, cancer, yes, but the chronic illnesses really get dependent on what we're doing. And the diet is huge. People overeat. 3,700 calories a day is an average number right now.
That's bad.
When you look at these, kind of blue zone areas, they're eating more like 1,800. We teach our people about an 1,800 calorie a day diet. We don't get too done in on the macros like, oh, you have to hit 1,800. Don't you dare hit 1,790. Right? We're not there. But we do know that most people are overeating. They eat, the way I always put it, people eat too much. They eat too often. They eat too late. They don't get any exercise, right? And they don't get enough sleep. So there's
That's a combo, right?
That starts that funnel of metaflammation. Then there's how much alcohol. Do you over-exercise? Because now we got folks that are, it used to be that wasn't the case, but now,
you have these triathletes and whatever.
Oh, triathletes. Well, people going and getting their, I'm doing 2 Pelotons a day. Isn't that great?
Oh, I see.
It's even the person that's not training that much, but for their age. I train differently now in my 60s. Than I did when I was 30, when I was 40.
I love Peter Attia's octogenarian. He calls it the octogenarian Olympics. I just want to be able to lift a 40-pound kid. I want to be able to touch my toes. I want to be able to sit on the ground and get up without using my hands. Some of those things I think are hilarious and so true. I mean, we have those squatty potty things, right? And here's these people in Japan that can cross their legs and sit down, and they're 75 and they're like 1 foot off the floor, and they're having tea for like an hour, right?
And then they just get up. Nobody's lifting them up. I think it's so important that what we don't realize, one of the critical things that causes you to have a cause of death is you fall. And falling is about brain coherence. So is your brain telling your nervous system to tell your muscles what to do and the right 3-dimensional awareness? Am I hitting the step or is my foot missing the step? And that is so critical because our work, it was interesting with Corvette Race Team. It was the first time I really started thinking about this. We did a brain coherence test where we had them swallow a capsule, and as they were driving, we measured their core body temperature. And it turns out that as your core body temperature goes up, your brain coherence goes down. Well, what's one of the things that causes that? Excess sympathetic stimulus. So if you're in fight or flight all the time, and you're eroding your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, where you're saying, hey, I'm okay. No, I'm not. There's a white tiger. Hey, I'm okay. No, I'm not. There's a white tiger. If you can't get that under control as you're aging, your brain and nervous system, the consequence of that is, hey, I'm not moving as accurately. And that puts me at risk for a fall, which can create, a hip breakage, right? Big one. One of the biggest ones, head trauma, because that can accelerate your dementia dramatically. I know that because I watched it happen with my mother, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you learn from all these things. I mean, it's tragic at the same time. It really changed the importance I put on people understanding that your brain is communicating with your whole body, and your whole point that you made about gut-brain connection, realizing there's a nervous system that connects the gut to the brain, and the brain can be causing the gut, and the gut can be causing the brain issues. All that's so important.
It is so weird, you guys. That's so true. And I've heard people say this: no system works alone, and you just can't believe it. Like my stomach problem was literally in my head, and because when I figured it out, it went away overnight. It was like, are you kidding me? And I'm
I've been taking probiotics and prebiotics and doing food elimination.
Oh my gosh, let's just not eat let's intermittent fast.
All of it.
And the other thing too, about this is the fact that people need to eat, probably you might tell me this, is the protein amount that we're not getting, even though we are overeating and under moving. I find it, I'm not a big girl anymore, and I'm like, I know I'm a little bit wasting, even though I lift, I work out, I work hard at trying to get the food in. 30 grams a meal is rough.
I can tell you this, I have very few people that ask me that question.
Yeah.
And that is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Once you get to the age of 60, and we're talking about aging now and longevity. No way.
Yeah.
But I like to say the same thing.
Yeah, right. Or near around.
Yeah, just kind of around it. And I'm really, you know how they put those filters on people?
Right.
It's like I'm filtering my age. But, when you think of this, it is absolutely proven that your protein intake goes up over the age of 60 in order for you to have a longer life.
Okay.
It is proven.
Yeah.
And so how am I going to get protein in? Well, it's hard getting 30 grams
totally
of protein.
Is. Yeah, I mean, eggs are, 6 grams? I mean,
Oh,
really,
yeah, you're gonna eat a
right,
dozen eggs?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I think I love pre-digested proteins for people. So I don't mind protein drinks if they're well made, if they're not loaded with aspartame K and not loaded with, who knows what, right?
Right.
Not loaded with caffeine, all that stuff.
Right.
So if it's a good quality protein source where they can drink it, one of the reasons I like that is that, as we age, we kind of lose a little bit of our digestive efficiency too. Right. So if we can pre-digest the proteins a little bit and use that as a way to adjunct our 3 meals a day. So maybe when we're eating, it's more like 20 grams or 25 grams at a time. I get a little, protein drink snack in there at the end of the day or somewhere in the middle of the day. Maybe after I go do my pickleball.
Right.
So
good.
Pickleball, it's just
I know.
confounds me. It's addictive.
It really is. And I had a physical therapist come on and he was laughing. He goes, in your everyday life, did you do this for hours? I'm like, no. And so why does it hurt? Because you did that for hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Day after day.
Right, exactly.
It's so good. I love it, yeah.
But I think for most of us, you have to start to think of eating as a part of your lifestyle. Like food isn't just diet. Food is a way for you to accomplish your goals.
Good idea.
And, I've really changed the way I present diet to people over the last 5 years.
That's good.
I've really tried to say to people, well, okay, what is your goal? Your goal is to feel better. Your goal is to live longer. What do we do to help that? Because one of the things that isn't going to do it is just using peptides and hormones and spermidine and Tibetan goji berries and, hey, if I just take the right pill, I can eat whatever I want.
Right.
And I can tell you right now, I'm 40 years in this and I've probably seen as many people as anyone in the country doing this kind of work. I mean, I've got clinics where we're doing 300-400 people a week, and now working with hundreds of clinics to try to educate. There's no substitute for these first couple steps we talked about where, I'm going to tell you a bad word that most people think is bad. It's called vegetables. Because somewhere or another, no, it's because someone who eats them.
Yeah, right.
They think it's a bad word.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that people need to learn how to eat, healthy fats.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right on, healthy fats.
Yeah.
But I still struggle with getting people to understand the importance of, I hate using the term a plant-based diet because then people think, oh, you're talking about being vegan. And I'm not. No. And I'm not an advocate for that, honestly, for what I've seen in clinical practice. If it's a religious reason, I fully support you. Follow your philosophy, follow your religion. I have no issue with that. But to choose that for your health reason.
Right. You're making some monumental mistakes there. From what I understand. Yeah. No, I think that's sad. And I was a vegetarian for a while. And it's been very hard to go back to eating a meat.
Oh, sure.
The meats are a little tough for me. But such a good idea, and obviously we had this on the show, you're just buying the best and eating less of it. But, again, we all know what the 20 grams looks like, right? Palm of your hand. Not a bad deal.
That's exactly right. You can usually get it done.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is getting people to understand variety. So, when you think of, I was watching this morning. I was watching a Blue Zone documentary this morning just because I knew I was coming to see you. I was like, let me refresh things. I mean, I hear this all the time, but why does it strike a chord of passion in me?
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing about it was interesting is the variety of foods. So when you think of people who even try to eat healthy here, right? I always have broccoli. I always have cauliflower. God forbid you give me a purple sweet potato.
Right.
Or don't even show the daikon to me. I don't even know what to do with that.
Right.
It's important to explore variety to get the nutrients. And if you looked across, these blue zone kind of documentaries and they actually dig into their diet, what they're seeing is variety is also important because you get more nutrient
they just
variety.
pick what's growing on the side of the mountain and whatever.
Whatever they got. And sometimes there's a food that's a big one, like in Okinawa, the purple sweet potatoes, a central philosophy for them.
Right.
But in most cases, they had a bunch of other stuff around it when you looked at the table that they were actually,
maybe
making
some
food.
absence of other foods that we might be ingesting.
I did not see a single Twinkie. It's weird.
No Dorito bag?
No Dorito bag. There was and I couldn't believe it.
And the food tastes normally better over there, don't you think? I mean,
well,
if you guys are lucky to go overseas, it's just, I know some people put the no on the gluten, and I know over there they have, they have, ancient grains, but I still make artisan bread. Okay, still do. And it is organic bread flour. And of course, now I'm just rationalizing. However, did you meet the guy, he put out the Himalayan tertiary buckwheat. Have you met this guy?
Yeah.
The father of functional medicine. Okay, well, you can only put so much in a loaf of artisan because it doesn't rise like a flour.
Right.
It just drops like a lead, right?
Right.
But I sneak it in there with all the nuts and seeds I can muster. So, I'm sorry. It's still going to stay.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, I'm Italian.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not notice it from all the hand gestures and my loudness, but pasta for me is love.
Oh yeah, I bet.
No, I mean generationally. My grandparents were immigrants, came through Ellis Island. We gathered as family, and I think having Italian 00 semolina to start with is good.
Social too. The making of the pasta is
all that, right? Yeah. And also, I love the fermentation, right? So when you think of the lactobacillus that's used to ferment there, that helps with reducing the starch load.
Right.
That's a big deal.
It rests and digests, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
we
don't
do
make it
that.
1 day, right? So how long does it take? Like for me, it takes 3 days for a bread to rise.
Right.
Is that how your dough?
It's like 2 to 3 days. You're going to get it.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece is you have to understand. I have a lot of patients that go to Europe, they eat, and they go, well, it didn't bother me. Well, it's not hybridized grain. I'm sorry. There's a difference in the quality. And you're happy, and you're taking a break, and, what the heck. There's probably a couple extra glasses of wine in the process. Right. But, but I think that, other than that, that's why everybody says, it's the wine. No, it's everything.
Yes.
It's the fact we don't have 5,000 cars in a square meter of traffic. But when you think of it, I think it's important for people to understand that, if you're going to sit all day, eating a lot of grain's probably not smart.
Yes.
No matter what.
Right.
So it's about understanding, well, what is my level of movement? Where do I want to be physiologically? How do I want to look?
Right.
What are my labs showing me? Am I insulin resistant? What can I do to change my blood sugar? And a lot of people, I know we're going to talk about CGMs at some point, but I think people need to understand, how high does your blood sugar go after you eat?
Right.
Because that is the number one most significant factor of leading to cardiovascular disease is postprandial hyperglycemia. And by the way, when that's going up, you're also cranking out a bunch of cortisol, telling your body you're in fight or flight.
Yes.
This is a big deal.
What Jim just said in another language was, when you eat, your blood sugar plays a role in how you feel. Yeah, and for some people, for a very long time, and not a good way. So I asked him to come and talk about continuous glucose monitoring. So I don't have one, but I want to get one. Do you have one?
Yes.
You wear one? Okay. So they
of course.
They known as Inside Tracker. You might have heard of Inside Tracker or Levels. Those are the two I know of.
Freestyle Libre 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your fave?
I mean, for convenience and ease to get it, I actually like Freestyle Libre 3. Okay. I think they've got a great app, but any of them will work. I mean,
and do you wear it all the time, or do you stick yourself after every meal? How's it go?
No, you take it and you stick it on you.
Okay.
And there's this little It's this micro needle that when you push it on, a little tiny thing, you don't even feel it.
Okay.
And then you open it up and you can tell, well, where is my blood sugar?
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly important. I come from a family of people with diabetes.
Okay.
All right. My Italians, right? And they're all as wide as they are tall for the most part. And they have a lot of diabetes. My father was a person with diabetes for 50 years.
Wow.
And his first 38 years, he was poorly managed. And then he came to live with me.
Oh, and you took all the fun away.
Took all the fun away. And guess what? He lived to 91.
He looked great, yeah.
But his numbers got significantly better. And you know why? Because we tracked his blood sugars.
Nice.
And people have to begin to understand that, look, this issue of insulin resistance is a big deal. And when you look at longevity, if you want to live a short life,
America's headed that way right now.
We've already got a shortened lifespan than any other time. That the numbers came in 4 years shorter than any previous
76
generation.
now for a male, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I don't know what the gals
That
are.
scares me.
Yeah. Well, how about? Yeah, I know. We're almost, time's almost up.
Get in there for Jim.
The worst is
Better get all your information from me now.
when I was, I don't know, it was started my fitness stuff in my 20s, but I just remember around 30, I would say the average woman weighed 130.
Right.
She now weighs, I think, is it 180?
Yeah.
Something. What the average woman weighs 180.
It's really scary.
Average.
It's scary, right?
It does scare
and I
me.
say something that I hope people don't take as cruel, because I'm gonna preempt this comment with the fact that my brother was 476 pounds at one point.
Wow.
And I loved my brother. I don't care what size a person is.
Of course, yeah.
They deserve love, compassion, care, but you know what they also deserve is honest words.
Yeah.
And so what I say is, for all the Lululemon pants being sold, I'm not seeing this epidemic going away. We got people now trying to use things like, Ozempic or Mounjaro, which I happen to be an advocate for when used appropriately, because a lot of people have to get started before they have willpower.
Right.
But there's also issues around it.
Sure.
But I think the first step is CGMs are easy to use. Continuous glucose monitors, and thank you for translating my language.
Right? I was like,
super happy.
What did we say we were going to talk about? Oh, yeah. No, but I do love that.
I think we're going off.
Yeah, and I do love that in that there was a dietitian that came on and she said, what's your relationship with food? That's her new book. And it was very cool because she said, I used to tell people, just like you, what to eat. She goes, now I ask them to ask themselves, like, what are you really hungry for? That was the name of the book, by the way. And so she said, if you get this monster sandwich at the mall, but maybe you had the worst day in the world, maybe you already worked out and maybe you didn't eat the night before, maybe that's okay. But she said, you have to ask yourself, don't go, oh, this is the serving size. You can't go with that manufacturer's recommended amount, right? But then on the other hand, maybe you were full at a quarter of it. So either toss it or, save it for later. So she, to your point, actually liked the Ozempic, these GLP, whatever's they are, because she said people are now not so nuts in their head. And it had less to do with, yes, of course they feel full, right? But so many people have commented on, I'm so happy I'm not thinking about food all the time. That's where I think it has its place, for sure.
Well, absolutely. And, for years I've said, one of the biggest problems is when we go to someone who's overweight and say, I need you to eat less, right? And they go, yeah. And then you explain blood sugar to them. They're going, okay, I got it. I love this. You're taking time with me. I get it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, for that person that's insulin resistant, they're making 2 packets of energy when glucose comes in their cell, not 30 plus. Mm-hmm. So when they leave your office and their energy's tanked, all they got on the way home, I don't see any broccoli stands.
Right.
All I got on the way home are bakeries and liquor stores.
Yeah, right.
and which are the wrong things to pick when you have that issue.
Yeah.
So fixing the brain. And a lot of people don't realize that the GLP-1s, meaning Ozempic, Mounjaro, and the new third generation coming out, there's an amount of brain protection that has been proven where it reduces neuroinflammation.
Okay.
And when I reduce the inflammation in my brain and I can start to improve the way my body's making energy, now I'm not thinking of food all the time because I'm not this gas-sucking SUV.
Right.
I'm becoming fuel efficient.
Yeah. And they feel better about themselves, the way they look, the way they feel.
100%.
I think, actually I had a physical, or not a physical, your annual checkup with your doc this morning. And I loved because she said, yes, we are doing it. We are giving it, well, not giving it out, but prescribing it. But she said they mandatory have to see her 6 weeks before they get their injection to make sure. I want to know what you're eating. I want to know would you like to eat. I would like to give you options here. And then what's your movement like? Because maybe they're very sedentary. Maybe they don't have that. Maybe their life is like that.
Exactly.
So it's just nice for your medical doctor to work with you on this if you're on it.
Well, I think probably the part that's being missed, and I just did a education series for A4M on this. We had 260 docs signed up online for this on how to look at GLP-1s as a part of weight loss. I think it's important that if you really want to dig into using it efficiently, first of all, how do I spare as much lean mass as possible?
Oh my gosh.
There is this bro science out there that says, oh my God, you only lose lean mass, you don't lose fat. The human studies that were actually published showed that it was equal to people that were put on lower calorie diets. So you lose 20 to 30% of your lean mass, which is not, we don't want that.
No, we don't.
So if we get people to move, one, the second one is understanding the impact of stress and cortisol. The third is getting people to sleep. And the fourth is the quality of food they pick. It's just not enough to give a shot and say, hey, you're going to eat less. Less Twinkies. Less Doritos. It's teaching a complete way, if you want to really be effective and get lasting effect. Say you're on it just to lose weight. You're not somebody who's fully, diabetic, and you're going to eventually wean off of that. The way you're going to wean off of that, let's hope, right? The way you're going to wean off of that is by I'm changing what I went and talked about earlier, my relationship to how I live my life. So it's a lifestyle of promoting health, a lifestyle of promoting longevity. And look, you don't have to be perfect. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm in a fantastic Italian restaurant. Watch out. But what am I doing the rest of the time?
Exactly. You make changes. Yeah, I think that's really true. What would be, because people are watching you and obviously they might be inspired by this, what's kind of the first thing? Is it food diary, blood first? I mean, what happens if hey, Jim, help me?
Help me, yeah, right. I mean, there's two ways that I do it. That's why I built my cloud-based informatics company. You can take a pretty thorough survey, and if you're honest with yourself and answer the questions, you can gain a lot of information about how do you feel? How do you feel when you eat, right? How do you feel when you eat? What's your baseline? I mean, in terms of, are you bloated? Do you have issues with your gut? Is it stress related? What's your sleep? Do you feel tired a lot? All those kind of things can give you information. I always like getting a blood test because one of the other problems I'm having with people, because we've went so plant-based now, everybody's like, eating the artificial foods.
Oh, the veggie burgers.
Well, my thing is, if you're so appalled by it, then don't make it in the shape of a burger. Make it in the shape of a vegetable.
Somebody else brought that up.
I'm just
why does it look like burgers?
Why do they look like burgers and dogs if you hate them? I mean, I don't know. I'm not being mean. I'm thinking, make it look like a zucchini. I mean, I don't know. It's protein zucchini. But the issues become. I have a lot of people that I'm showing with iron deficiencies now.
Oh, wow.
So I really, and then the other thing that's interesting, so we used that term metaflammation earlier. So there's hallmark signs of metabolic inflammation in your body. One thing is you make bad actor lipids. So I know you've had guests talk about, looking at, fractionated lipid profiles where you're looking at oxidized lipids, or you're looking at apolipoprotein B, a little fraction of that lipid. If it's up, that's a problem. So dyslipidemia. The other one is muscle loss. So by losing muscle, one of the big ones is that you have adequate iron, but you don't store it as ferritin.
I see.
And when you don't store ferritin, now all of a sudden I'm not building up nice healthy red blood cells in order for me to continue doing the things I love to do. So metaflammation will trigger that. So you can see that in a blood test. Now the other obvious ones that you see, insulin resistance is one of the big signs of inflammation. I mean, let's just face it. People with diabetes don't live as long typically. My father was an outlier. to make it to 91 as a
big.
person with diabetes that never took insulin.
Wow.
He never needed insulin. I'm going to take a little credit. He came live with us. My wife's a dietitian, knows how to do it. She's like an extraordinaire.
Over there, I can't imagine.
Yeah, and so we had him dialed in. He eventually got happy about it.
Okay.
But the point being is that so insulin and looking glucose and insulin super important. And then bone loss is one of the biggest signs of metabolic inflammation. You stop being able to build bone. And then the most deeply derangement is I lose my neuroplasticity. And what that is, here, let me put it, and you're going to say it, and this is in Jim's, and I'm going to transfer what Jim's saying here. I always tell people, do you feel like you're pushing a thought through Jell-O?
Yeah.
Cloudiness, fogginess, mental disconnect, And then the last piece that occurs is mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning that my powerhouses of the cells in my cell are no longer able to produce the energy needed. And that puts me at a strategic disadvantage because now I don't have the energy to communicate with all the cells in my body. Going back to that concept of whole body communication. So as you're having all that happen, that's why I love blood tests, urine tests, saliva tests. In addition to, look, there's some cool new tests. Glycan age, for example. They measure the glycans in, with a little blood sample, which glycans are a part of every cell in your body.
Okay.
And as you age, especially in women, when women go to menopause and they lose their estradiol, they go from making anti-inflammatory glycans to pro-inflammatory glycans almost immediately.
Wow. And that's why you go on HRT. Thank you very much. Not every woman I know.
Right. But I agree. I think it's a good thing for most women.
Yeah, for most women. Yeah. I think that's really cool. And I want to make sure, because we kind of talked about the blood sugar monitors. If you wore one or you do wear one, just kind of, guys, what would happen is if Jim and I both had oatmeal, I might be good. And, maybe we both put nut butter. It's not like we just did, sure.
Same amount.
Yeah, right. But one person's blood sugar would skyrocket and the other person's would not. And not that we're in a competition, but that can that can be bad, so that can be a bad thing. So explain why over a prolonged period of time, if you're eating most of your meals, you are having a spike in blood sugar, then you have some issues.
Yeah. So how do you use a glucose monitor to your best advantage? So for years, I had to do finger sticks, 1 hour postprandial, 2 hours postprandial, make people stick their fingers a lot. They didn't like me. But we got good data. Why the CGM, continuous glucose monitor, is so good is that I can immediately see the results of eating that bowl of oatmeal. I can understand what its effect is. The higher your blood sugar goes after a meal, the more you trigger inflammation signaling. You release inflammatory cytokines and cortisol when your blood sugar goes up, and that damages your tissues, it damages organs, it creates an impact that says, hey, immune system, keep getting ticked off. So you go to your next meal. Or no, wait, you don't go to your next meal because there's M&Ms on your desk. Right? Yep. For a lot of people, there's stress, snacking between meals, and now you're not really giving your body a chance to go back to normal. So you can see, where is my normal state? Because I'm snacking a lot, and am I keeping that blood sugar elevated even in between meals? And then I go to the next meal, and what happens? And so not only is it important to understand for mealtime, so the obvious is, I'm looking at my blood sugar to see the impact of food.
Right.
I think the other thing you have to look at, just like these little smartwatches, that I'm so happy I know when to breathe now. This is amazing. It tells me that I'm allowed to breathe.
Right.
12 times a day, I get to take a breath.
Right.
So the same thing with the CGM monitor. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
So the CGM monitor, what I like is what's the impact of alcohol? What kind of alcohol?
Okay.
So, because people are going to have alcohol.
Sure.
Let's just face it. People like glasses of wine, right? Yep. No worries. All good.
Yep.
People like tequila. People like vodka. People like whiskey. I have people that they tell me, oh my gosh, I never realized the difference between whiskey and tequila in terms of my blood sugar. I can have that and it doesn't bother me, where the whiskey thing bothers my gut. My blood sugar goes up. And so it helps you to food pattern how late can I eat? Because, we hold this whole circadian eating piece.
Yes.
Morning should not eat after 7 p.m.,
Right.
which is great if you're not a night shift worker.
Right.
I mean, there's these individual issues that are there. So how do we control them?
Yeah.
So the next thing is, how am I optimizing within my 24-hour day? Because it was interesting. I was just on an educational webinar that I was giving and talking about this and the impact of continuous glucose monitoring. And what they're finding in a lot of people is they're having in the middle of the night blood sugar dumps, where their blood sugars are dipping in the middle of the night.
And that wakes up the cortisol, doesn't it?
And that wakes up the cortisol. And now I have my what? 3 a.m. wake up call, and which is very common. I mean, I interview a lot of people in the course of a month, just in my practices, right? Because I've got a couple practices with my docs, and it's a very common thing that I'm getting up at 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but do you feel that then, because I'm one of those people that pretty much eats really early because we get up early. My husband's on East Coast time working. So, but I do wake up at 3, but I do go to bed at 8:30. So it's like, okay, is it just because I'm near, or is it because I need to eat? Because I eat like 5 o'clock. I eat at 5 o'clock, because, you don't want to eat right before you go to bed, So it's a long way away from, my sleeping.
That's why a CGM would be so good for you,
Yeah.
right? Because look, 8:30 to 3:30.
Yeah.
7 hours.
Yeah.
You're in the window of goodness.
Yeah.
Right? If you can get 7, you're good.
Yeah.
But that's where the CGM becomes important.
Yeah. I mean, would you have said to somebody, okay, have a bite of peanut butter before you go to sleep, or nut butter, or have the turkey?
In general, if you think about the research on circadian timing and eating, they're saying, hey, don't eat before you go to bed. However, I also look at the research on people over the age of, everybody, that's right. Yeah. And people over the age of 60, drinking a protein support right before bed reduces bone loss, improves muscle. So I kind of try to fit things for people.
That's a good fit. Because I try to do that smoothie in the day, and it doesn't become me. I don't love it. Yeah. It's like I'm not. No, that might be a better way to go.
Yeah, even if you did it at like 7, because you are, 8:30 to 3:30 is a little up. But you know how you prove it out? Look at your numbers.
Right.
See how it goes. I mean, in general, for me. I just think people need to take responsibility for how much food you're taking in. I think it's less important, and I know this isn't going to be popular with all the biohackers out there, but I just happen to have a little experience at this.
Right.
I see people every day, and I look at what's going on in their chemistry. Yeah. It's interesting how the French eat later in the evening, but yet they have pretty good life expectancy.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And we all say, oh, it's the wine. Well, maybe it's not the wine. Maybe it's the 32-hour week and taking off the month of August. Just saying.
Right.
And the smaller portion size.
Yes.
And so for me, I'm not as concerned about, oh my God, there's no way you should eat after 7 p.m.
Right.
Because I don't know your lifestyle.
Right.
But what I do know is, I want you to regulate your blood sugar.
Yeah.
And so if you're boinking, they call it boinking. If you're boinking at 3 a.m., you don't want to boink.
No,
so that means you need food of some sort that's going to keep you from that drop in blood sugar that is going to make you wake up and elevate your heart rate. And you wake up, oh my God, why I got a palpitation? Why am I feeling excited? Then all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, I got to think about work.
And then you start thinking, I was going to say that's exactly, I go, don't go there. You have to just lay down and go to sleep. Yeah, I know, don't go there. Or don't think about tomorrow.
So my point is that you got to take care of your body from the way you eat and your blood chemistries and your stress level and making sure you breathe 12 times a day.
Right.
Making sure you're breathing deep.
Yeah.
And then you got to take care of the, that skeleton, that shell that everything in us is housed in. Yeah. And that's why I look over here. I'm seeing a Pilates reformer.
Right, those I teach agree. And guys, the good news on what Jim is saying is he's not asking you to do a lot. I mean, if you're talking 30's the winner, yay. I mean, there were 2 or 3 10s, right? If you're not an NBA
However you
player,
got to do it.
Yeah, 3 10s works for many. That
that's
don't have that time. I think that's great.
Yeah, it was really a fascinating study because they basically said moderate exercise for the even an athlete.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a casual athlete, it works in our favor, and we've known this for a long time.
Right.
Moderate exercise promotes longevity. If you were getting paid millions of dollars a year, your job is to perform. It's they're not asking you to show how you can, live longer. They're asking you to perform at your best, which means intense training.
Yes.
And then how do you countermeasure that? Meaning, how do we ensure resiliency? So if you're listening, I mean, people are going to be doing classes and people are going to be doing triathlons. It's every bit as important for you to understand the construct of resiliency, metabolic reserve. What is my reserve? Do I have reserve in my tank when I'm working? Or am I starting to stress my immune system? And even though I look really good, I got these chemistry things that are telling me I'm in the wrong direction. And it's, what are the actions that are going to get me to recover? And guess what? It sounds stupid. Sleep. Eat.
Do everything else right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think Daniel Amen, you guys might know him. He's a psychiatrist. He talks a lot about food and behavior and whatever. And he's like, I don't like football players, bleeding brains, because every time you get hit in the head, your brain bleeds, right? He goes, I don't like that. He goes, but the ones that come to me, they do everything else right if that's their career. And I think that's just,
that's the key.
Yeah, right.
No, that's exactly
it. You get your
it.
sleep, then you get your social interaction, and you watch your diet, and you do your breathing. To your point, so good. We are going to tell you guys goodbye for now, because I'm going to have Jim on again. We're going to talk about sleep next, and I want you to hear. Of course, he knows everything about everything. So I just want to say I loved all this. I love the metaflammation. This is just beyond. That's such a cool topic. But I do want you guys to look into glucose monitors. I think that's a really neat thing. And remember, you pretty much only need about 30 minutes of exercise, and start with walking, because that's the way to go, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for joining us on the Malibu studio. We will see you again real soon.